The sensors aboard the Criveri exploration vessel Eternal Dawn picked up the radio signals first, crude electromagnetic waves carrying primitive audio and visual data. High Admiral Vexterra clicked her mandibles in mild amusement as she studied the holographic display of the third planet orbiting an unremarkable yellow star. The signals originated from a species that had barely mastered atmospheric flight, yet was already dreaming of the stars. Another developing world. She noted to her science officer, "Prepare a standard assessment protocol." The Criveri Empire had encountered thousands of emerging civilizations over their 50,000 years of space travel. Most followed predictable patterns of development, taking millennia to achieve what the Criveri had mastered eons ago. Their crystalline bodies housed minds that operated at speeds incomprehensible to organic life, and their technology was indistinguishable from magic to lesser species. But something about this planet, Earth as its inhabitants called it, caught Vexterra's attention. The speed of technological advancement was unprecedented. In merely 2 centuries, these humans had progressed from burning coal to splitting atoms. Their scientific development was chaotic, unplanned, driven by some internal force that the Criveri's predictive models struggled to quantify. "Fascinating," she murmured, watching recordings of human civilization. "They achieve through disorder what we accomplish through perfect planning." The Criveri Council had clear protocols for first contact with developing species, observation, evaluation, and if deemed worthy, careful guidance into the galactic community. But as Vexterra studied humanity's violent history, their constant wars and conflicts, she felt a growing sense of concern. These beings were dangerous, not for their current capability, but for their potential. When the first diplomatic probe descended into Earth's atmosphere, broadcasting peace messages in all major human languages, the response was not what the Criveri expected. Instead of awe or submission, the humans reacted with a mixture of fear, curiosity, and defiance. Military vessels intercepted the probe, scientific teams attempted to analyze it, and religious groups proclaimed both doom and salvation. "They're fracturing along tribal lines," reported Sub-Commander Zix, just as predicted for a primitive species. But Vexterra wasn't convinced. Behind the apparent chaos, she detected patterns, information sharing between nations, coordinated military responses, and rapid technological adaptation as human instruments studied the probe's energy signatures. The second diplomatic mission ended in disaster. The human leaders, gathering in what they called the United Nations, demanded answers the Criveri diplomats weren't authorized to provide. Questions about military capabilities, technological sharing, and governance structures. When the Criveri offered their standard proposal, gradual integration into the empire over several centuries, the humans openly laughed. "We appreciate your offer," their spokesperson had said, "but humanity charts its own course." Such insolence from a species that couldn't even reach their own moon efficiently was unprecedented. The Criveri Council, reviewing the diplomatic failures, reached a unanimous decision. Earth would need to be brought under control before its chaotic development threatened galactic stability. "Begin invasion preparations," the Council ordered. "Standard subjugation protocols." Vexterra, now tasked with leading the military campaign, felt an unfamiliar sensation as she assembled her fleet. The crystalline lattices of her consciousness vibrated with what organic species might call out. The humans were primitive, yes, but they were also unpredictable. Their history showed an incredible ability to unite against common threats, to innovate under pressure, and to survive against overwhelming odds. As the first wave of Criveri warships moved into position behind Earth's moon, Vexterra accessed the Empire's historical archives. In 50,000 years of expansion, the Criveri had never failed to subjugate a target species. Their methods were perfect, their technology supreme, their strategies flawless. Yet watching the humans scramble to respond to their presence, launching primitive satellites to track her fleet's movements, and conducting military exercises with their crude weapons, Vexterra couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to break that perfect record. "Your orders, High Admiral." her fleet commanders asked. Vexterra studied the blue planet one final time. Begin the attack. Show these humans the price of defiance. As her ships moved into attack formation, she added a personal note to her command log. The humans believe they can resist us. Perhaps for the first time in our history, we should consider the possibility that a lesser species might be right. The invasion of Earth was about to begin, and with it, a war unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. 3 months into the invasion, High Admiral Vexterra faced an uncomfortable truth. Nothing was proceeding according to standard protocols. The Criveri's opening strikes had been devastating, precisely as planned. Their energy weapons had demolished military bases, their gravity manipulators had crushed naval fleets, and their atmospheric processors had turned the weather itself into a weapon. Yet humanity refused to break. Another supply convoy lost. Sub-Commander Zix reported, his crystalline form pulsing with agitation. The humans are using their ocean depths to move undetected. Our sensors can't track their primitive submarines effectively. Vexterra studied the tactical display, watching another red marker vanish from the grid. The humans had proven remarkably adept at identifying and exploiting the few weaknesses in Criveri technology. Their liquid-based oceans created interference patterns that confused Criveri quantum sensors, and the humans had quickly learned to use this to their advantage. "Show me the latest combat footage," she commanded. The holographic display shifted, showing scenes from around the planet. In what the humans called Vietnam, their soldiers used the dense jungle canopy to ambush Criveri ground forces, disappearing before retaliation could be launched. In Afghanistan, mountain caves harbored resistance fighters who emerged to strike at critical moments. In the streets of New York, civilians turned their own infrastructure into weapons, dropping entire buildings on Criveri units. Most disturbing were the innovations. Human scientists, working in hidden facilities across the globe, were already beginning to understand and adapt Criveri technology. They discovered that simple water could disrupt Criveri energy shields. Their primitive projectile weapons, modified with electromagnetic pulses, could temporarily paralyze Criveri crystalline bodies. "They're learning too fast," Zix observed. At this rate, they'll be fielding countermeasures to our primary weapons within a year," Vexterra finished. "The Council must be informed." But the Criveri Council, in their orbital chambers high above the conflict, remained confident. "Increase the pressure," they ordered. "Deploy the world breakers." Vexterra felt her crystalline structure vibrate with concern. The world breakers were planet-killing weapons, designed to crack continents and boil oceans. Using them would destroy much of Earth's valuable resources, but the Council had decided that making an example of humanity was more important than preservation. The first world breaker was deployed over what humans called the Pacific Ocean. As the massive device began its initialization sequence, Vexterra expected to finally see the fear and submission she'd anticipated from the beginning. Instead, she watched in disbelief as a swarm of crude nuclear missiles breached the world breaker's defenses. The humans had sacrificed entire cities' worth of nuclear material, knowing the electromagnetic pulses would be devastating to their own infrastructure, just to deliver a killing blow to the Criveri superweapon. "Impossible," Zix whispered, watching the world breaker crack and shatter, its pieces raining into the ocean below. "They shouldn't have been able to coordinate an attack of that magnitude. Our communications disruption was insufficient." Vexterra interrupted. "We forgot something crucial about these humans. They've spent their entire history fighting each other. They don't need advanced quantum communications. They know how to wage war with nothing but hand signals and paper maps if necessary." The loss of the world breaker marked a turning point. Across Earth, resistance intensified. Humans began using captured Criveri technology in ways its creators had never imagined. They combined their primitive but robust technologies with salvaged alien components, creating hybrid weapons that bypassed Criveri defenses. More worrying was their ability to inspire hope. Through their primitive information networks, stories of successful resistance spread rapidly. Every small victory was celebrated, every tactical innovation shared. The humans had turned the invasion into a crucible, forcing themselves to evolve and adapt at an unprecedented rate. The Council demands an explanation for our failure to progress, Zix reported one evening, after another devastating day of losses. Vexterra stood at her command viewport, watching Earth rotate below. The planet's night side glittered with fires and explosions, a testament to the ongoing conflict. But for every city the Criveri destroyed, the humans seemed to fight harder from the ruins. "Tell the Council that we made a fundamental error," she replied. "We assumed that because humans were technologically inferior, they would be easy to conquer. We forgot that technology isn't everything in war. The humans don't need perfect weapons or flawless strategies. They have something we've lost over our millennia of easy victories: the absolute determination to survive, no matter the cost." As if to emphasize her point, alarms blared through the command ship. On the tactical display, hundreds of small craft appeared, launching from hidden bases across Earth's surface. They were headed for the Criveri fleet, and this time, they weren't just carrying nuclear weapons. The humans had learned how to turn the Criveri's own technology against them, and they were about to demonstrate just how costly underestimating them had become. The human scientist held up a crystalline shard, her eyes reflecting the strange purple light it emitted. Dr. Sarah Chen, leading Earth's Xenotechnology Division, had spent months studying the remains of fallen Criveri soldiers. What she and her global team of researchers discovered had changed everything. The Criveri aren't just using technology, she explained to the assembled military leaders. In a way, they are technology. Their crystalline structures are like living quantum computers, but that makes them vulnerable in ways they never considered. In underground facilities across the planet, humanity's brightest minds have been working tirelessly, combining their understanding of physics, biology, and engineering in ways the Criveri had never imagined. The aliens' technological superiority had bred complacency. They hadn't innovated in millennia because they hadn't needed to. High above Earth, High Admiral Vexterra received increasingly disturbing reports. Human weapons were evolving at an impossible rate. They had learned to generate electromagnetic frequencies that disrupted Criveri cognitive functions. Their primitive projectile weapons now carried payloads that could shatter crystalline bodies on impact. Most worryingly, they had somehow developed shields that could deflect Criveri energy weapons. "They're using our own destroyed ships as raw materials," Zix reported, his crystalline form dimming with concern. "They're not just copying our technology. They're reimagining it entirely." The humans had discovered that Criveri technology, based on perfect crystalline structures, could be disrupted by introducing controlled imperfections. Their flawed adaptations of Criveri systems were unpredictable, but devastatingly effective. They had turned the aliens' greatest strength, their pursuit of perfection, into a critical weakness. In orbit, the first human-modified ships appeared. They were ugly hybrids of Earth metals and salvaged Criveri crystals, their designs sacrificing beauty for brutal efficiency. The Criveri's elegant energy weapons found their beams scattered by clouds of specialized dust. Their perfect formation tactics were thrown into chaos by human ships that maneuvered in ways that defied their combat algorithms. "They're not fighting like a spacefaring civilization should," Vexterra observed, watching another elegant Criveri formation shattered by seemingly suicidal human attacks. "They're fighting like the primitive ground dwellers they are, but in space." The humans had brought their entire history of warfare into the space age. They used asteroid fields like ancient armies had used forests for ambush. They turned their ships' engines into weapons, weaponizing radiation in ways the Criveri had never considered. They fought dirty, without honor, seeking victory at any cost. But it was on the ground that humanity's true innovation showed. Dr. Chen's team had created what they called crystal blight, engineered viruses that could infect and corrupt Criveri crystalline structures. The weapons were devastating not because they were technologically advanced, but because they were so primitive that the Criveri had no defenses against biological attacks. "We need to withdraw the ground forces," Zix urged, after watching another battalion fall to human guerrilla tactics. "They're turning every defeat into an opportunity to salvage and study our technology." Vexterra knew he was right, but the Council remained adamant. Withdrawal would be an admission of failure, something the Criveri Empire had never faced in its 50,000 years of expansion. Yet every day they remained, the humans grew stronger, learning and adapting at a pace that defied all Criveri models of technological development. In her private chambers, Vexterra reviewed footage from the early days of the invasion. The humans had seemed so primitive then, with their combustion engines and chemical rockets. Now, barely a year later, they were fielding weapons and defenses that rivaled Criveri technology, not through careful planned development, but through desperate, creative innovation. "They're not winning because they're stronger or more advanced," she realized. "They're winning because they never accepted that they should lose." The turning point came when human scientists cracked the quantum encryption of the Criveri battle network. They didn't do it through superior computing power, but through observation and intuition, recognizing patterns that the Criveri's rigid thinking had never considered could be patterns at all. As her fleet's defenses began to fail one by one, Vexterra faced a reality no Criveri commander had ever encountered. They weren't just losing battles, they were losing the very advantages that had made them unstoppable for millennia. The humans had turned adaptation itself into a weapon. And against that, perfect crystalline technology meant nothing. The real question was no longer whether the Criveri could win, but how much more humanity would learn from them before the war ended, and that thought terrified Vexterra more than any defeat. The battle for Jupiter's orbit began with a silence that belied its magnitude. Humanity's combined fleet, a bizarre collection of modified civilian ships, hybrid war vessels, and captured Criveri craft, faced the largest concentration of Criveri military might ever assembled in one system. Admiral Helena Santos stood on the bridge of the ESS Prometheus, once a civilian cargo hauler, now transformed into humanity's first true space flagship. The ship's hull was a patchwork of Earth metals and salvaged Criveri crystal, its systems a marriage of human ingenuity and alien technology. "All ships report ready," her tactical officer announced. "The Criveri fleet is holding position behind Ganymede." The plan was audacious, perhaps even insane by conventional military standards. But as humanity had proven repeatedly during this war, conventional thinking was their greatest weapon against an enemy that relied on perfection. High Admiral Vexterra, watching from her command ship, felt an unfamiliar sensation as she observed the human fleet's approach. Their formation was chaotic, unpredictable. Everything that Criveri tactical doctrine said should lead to their destruction. Yet that very chaos had proved devastatingly effective. "They're deploying their crystal blight weapons," Zix reported, his crystalline form flickering with anxiety. But something's different about the delivery pattern. The humans had indeed changed their tactics. Instead of direct attacks, they were using Jupiter's intense magnetic field to create corridors of disrupted space. The Criveri's perfect formations began to splinter as their ships were forced to navigate around these dangerous zones. "They're not trying to destroy us," Vexterra realized too late. "They're hurting us." Admiral Santos watched as the trap began to close. Months of studying Criveri battle tactics had revealed their fundamental weakness, an inability to comprehend truly random actions. The human fleet's apparent chaos was actually a carefully orchestrated dance, designed to trigger the Criveri's automatic response patterns. The first phase of the battle lasted hours, with both sides trading energy beams and exotic weapons across the vast distances of space. Human ships, their hulls coated with salvaged Criveri crystals, absorbed hits that should have vaporized them. Criveri vessels found their perfect targeting systems confused by swarms of small, unmanned craft broadcasting contradictory signals. "Now," Santos ordered, as the Criveri fleet finally settled into the exact position they'd planned for. From behind AO, humanity's secret weapon emerged. Dr. Chen's team had spent months preparing it. A massive electromagnetic pulse generator built from the salvaged cores of 3 Crivari worldbreakers. The device utilized Jupiter's magnetic field as an amplifier, creating a wave of energy that no crystalline structure could withstand. Vexterra watched in horror as the pulse swept through her fleet. Ships began to crack, their perfect crystalline structures developing fatal flaws. The humans had learned not just to use Crivari technology, but to understand its fundamental weaknesses. All ships, emergency protocols. She commanded, but it was too late. The pulse had disrupted their quantum communication network. For the first time in their history, the Crivari fleet was in chaos. The human attack that followed was ruthlessly efficient. Their hybrid ships, powered by both conventional engines and salvaged Crivari drives, closed the distance rapidly. Boarding parties, wearing suits designed to disrupt crystalline structures on contact, breached the confused Crivari vessels. Admiral Santos stood on her bridge, watching the tactical display as ship after ship fell to the combined human assault. This wasn't just a victory. It was a demonstration of everything that made humanity different from the Crivari. Where they sought perfection, humans embraced imperfection as a source of strength. The battle's climax came when the Prometheus itself engaged Vexterra's flagship. The human vessel, despite its crude appearance, moved with a grace that defied its origins. Its weapons, hybrid abominations that combined human nuclear technology with Crivari energy systems, overwhelmed the flagship's perfect defenses. High Admiral, Zix reported, his form barely maintaining coherence. "They're not destroying our ships. They're capturing them." Vexterra understood the implications immediately. Each captured ship would provide humans with more technology to adapt, more knowledge to absorb. They weren't just winning a battle, they were ensuring their future dominance. As boarding parties breached her command deck, Vexterra made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. She initiated her ship's surrender protocols, something no Crivari commander had done in 50,000 years of warfare. The Battle of Jupiter marked more than just a military victory. It demonstrated that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their tactics, but their ability to turn adversity into advantage. They had taken the Crivari's greatest weapons and transformed them into something new, something that even their creators couldn't fully comprehend. The war wasn't over, but its outcome was no longer in doubt. Humanity had proven that determination, creativity, and the willingness to embrace imperfection could overcome even the most perfect enemy. 10 years after the Battle of Jupiter, the galactic landscape had changed beyond recognition. The former High Admiral Vexterra stood before the newly formed Interstellar Council, her crystalline form reflecting the light of Earth's sun. She was no longer a military commander, but an ambassador. The first Crivari to formally represent her people to the species they had once tried to conquer. The humans, true to their unpredictable nature, had not destroyed the Crivari Empire after their victory. Instead, they had done something far more profound. They had changed it. The integration of human cognitive patterns into our crystalline matrices has been transformative. Vexterra addressed the assembly. "We are learning to embrace imperfection, to see chaos not as a flaw, but as an opportunity for growth." The changes weren't limited to philosophy. Human scientists, led by Dr. Chen, had worked with Crivari engineers to create new technologies that combined the best of both species. The rigid perfection of crystalline computing was now enhanced by human-inspired random processing elements, creating systems more powerful than either civilization had possessed alone. Earth itself had been transformed. The scars of war remained, but among them rose structures that blended human and Crivari architecture. Crystalline spires wrapped in living gardens, quantum computers housed in buildings that celebrated asymmetry. It was a physical representation of how humanity had changed the galaxy, not by destroying the old, but by reimagining it. "We used to believe that advancement meant moving toward perfection," Vexterra continued. "The humans showed us that true advancement comes from embracing change, even when it's messy and uncomfortable. The aftermath of the war had sent shockwaves through the galaxy. Other spacefaring civilizations, long dormant under the Kriveri Empire's perfect order, began to stir. They watched as humanity took their place among the stars, not as conquerors, but as innovators who saw possibilities where others saw only chaos. Perhaps the most significant change was in how the galaxy now approached technological development. The human concept of open source had revolutionized how species shared knowledge. The rigid hierarchies of the past gave way to collaborative networks where innovations could come from anywhere. 10 years ago, we came to Earth believing we would find another primitive species to absorb into our perfect empire, Vex Terra reflected. Instead, we found teachers who showed us that our perfection had become our prison. In orbital shipyards around Earth, vessels of new design were taking shape. They combined the durability of human engineering with the elegance of Kriveri crystal technology, but they were neither human nor Kriveri. They were something entirely new. Each ship was slightly different, embracing the human principle that diversity breeds resilience. The humans themselves had changed too. Access to Kriveri technology had accelerated their development, but they had not lost their essential nature. They remained adaptable, creative, and sometimes frustratingly unpredictable. Their cities still buzzed with chaos, their societies still thrived on debate and disagreement, and their innovations still emerged from the most unlikely places. The galaxy learned an important lesson from humanity. Vex Terra concluded, "Perfection is not the absence of flaws, it is the ability to turn those flaws into strengths." As she finished speaking, news arrived from the deep space exploration teams. They had discovered another young civilization, just beginning to reach for the stars. In the past, the Kriveri would have seen them as subjects to be conquered. Now, influenced by humanity's example, they saw potential allies, each with their own unique contributions to make. The humans had a saying that had become popular among the Kriveri: "Perfect is the enemy of good." It encapsulated everything that had made humanity's victory possible: their willingness to embrace imperfection, to learn from failure, and to find strength in diversity. The war that began with an empire's arrogance had ended by reshaping the fundamental nature of galactic civilization. Humanity's legacy wasn't just their victory over a superior force. It was showing the galaxy that true greatness comes not from achieving perfection, but from the endless journey of improvement. As night fell over Earth, the crystalline spires of the new civilization glowed with an inner light, their imperfect surfaces creating patterns that no perfect design could have achieved. It was a testament to humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy, the understanding that in the space between order and chaos, between perfection and flaws, lay the true path to the stars.